The cat reunited with his owner after a long 7-year separation. The cat's reaction was so touching that all witnesses of the moment couldn't hold back their tears. One ordinary day in the small town of Oakville, Jason Thompson's life changed forever. Jason had worked as an accountant at a local company for a long time and lived in a cozy house on the outskirts of the town. He had always loved animals, but his heart especially belonged to a cat named Winston. Jason first met Winston when he was just a tiny kitten. It happened 12 years ago, on the day Jason celebrated his 25th birthday. His sister, Emily, brought him a small, fluffy bundle as a gift, knowing how much her brother wanted a pet. From the very first moment, Jason and Winston shared a special bond. The kitten was completely ginger, and his eyes were an astonishing shade of amber. Jason instantly fell in love with the little one and decided to name him Winston in honor of his beloved grandfather. Years passed, and Winston became an inseparable part of Jason's life. They would wake up together every morning, have breakfast together, and in the evenings, Winston would always wait for his owner at the door when he came home from work. The cat wasn't just a pet. He was a true friend and a member of the family. Jason took care of Winston with particular tenderness. He bought him the best food, regularly took him to the vet, and even taught him a few tricks. Winston knew how to give a paw, bring a small ball, and even talk, making special sounds in response to Jason's questions. But then the unthinkable happened. One warm spring day, Jason took Winston for a walk in the garden, as he usually did. The cat loved being outside, and Jason always kept a close eye on him. But this time, he got distracted for a second by a phone call. When Jason looked up again, Winston was nowhere to be seen. He searched the entire garden, calling the cat's name, but it was as if Winston had vanished into thin air. Jason started to panic, realizing he had no idea in which direction his pet had run off. The next few days turned into a nightmare for Jason. He scoured the neighborhood, posted missing cat signs, and called every local animal shelter. But it was as if Winston had disappeared without a trace. Weeks turned into months, but Jason never gave up hope of finding his friend. He continued searching, placing ads online, and even hired a private investigator who specialized in finding lost pets. Sadly, all of it was in vain. Gradually, Jason's life began to change. He became withdrawn, talking less to his friends and coworkers. Every evening as he returned home, he hoped to see Winston sitting on the porch, but it never happened. A year passed, then two. Jason still couldn't accept the loss, but he had to move on with his life. He threw himself into his work, trying to fill the emptiness in his heart. Yet Winston's photo remained on his desk, reminding him of the happy days they spent together. The years passed. Jason tried to live a normal life, but a part of his heart always belonged to Winston. He never got another pet, feeling it would be a betrayal of his missing friend. 7 years after Winston's disappearance, Jason's life changed once again. He got a promotion at work and moved to a larger city about 100 miles away from Oakville. It was a difficult decision because moving meant he was finally letting go of the hope that Winston would return. In the new city, Jason tried to start fresh. He made new friends and spent more time on his hobbies. But deep down, he still missed his furry friend. One day, while flipping through a local newspaper, Jason came across an article about volunteers helping stray animals. It reminded him of Winston, and he decided to join the volunteer movement. Maybe by helping other animals, he could fill at least some of the void in his heart. Jason began regularly visiting the local animal shelter. He helped take care of the cats and dogs, walked them, and played with them. It brought him some comfort, but it also reminded him of Winston every time. One day, while Jason was working at the office, something unusual happened. Volunteers brought in an old, exhausted cat they had found on the street. The cat was in terrible condition, dirty, thin, with dull fur, and one of his ears was torn off, apparently in a fight with stray dogs. The shelter vet examined the cat and decided that he would have to be euthanized because the animal was already very old and sick. Before the sad procedure, the vet assistant re-examined the old ginger cat and suddenly discovered that he had a microchip. It was rare for a stray animal, and everyone was surprised. When the chip's data was read, a true miracle occurred. The cat turned out to be the very same Winston, who had gone missing 7 years ago. Jason couldn't believe his ears when he received the call from the shelter. He dropped everything and rushed there, hoping to see his old friend again. When he entered the room where Winston was being kept, his heart was pounding. Winston lay in the corner of the cage, looking very tired and sick. But when he heard Jason's voice, his ears perked up and his eyes opened wide. Despite the years that had passed, the cat immediately recognized his owner. The moment Jason carefully opened the cage and reached out to Winston, the cat slowly stood up and approached him. The moment Winston pressed against Jason's hand was so moving that everyone in the room couldn't hold back their tears. Jason gently picked Winston up, and the cat immediately pressed against his chest, as if trying to make up for all the years of separation. Jason stroked his pet, whispering words of love and promising never to be apart again. The process of completing the paperwork to bring Winston home seemed to take forever for Jason. He couldn't wait for the moment when he could finally take his friend back. The vet warned that Winston would need special care due to his age and health condition, but Jason was ready for anything. Finally, the moment came when Jason could bring Winston home. He had prepared a special place for him with a soft bed and his favorite toys, which he had kept all these years. Winston seemed to feel at home immediately. The first days were not easy. Winston was weak and needed constant care. Jason took time off from work to stay by the cat's side around the clock. He fed him a special diet, gave him medicine, and simply stayed close, letting Winston know he was safe. Gradually, the pet began to recover. His fur became shiny again, he gained weight, and even started playing, just like in the old days. Jason couldn't stop smiling at his friend, feeling thankful every day for this incredible gift. Jason's life changed completely with Winston's return. He became more open, smiled more often, and even started dating a woman named Sarah, who also loved animals. Winston seemed to approve of Jason's choice, always greeting Sarah warmly. Jason continued his volunteer work at the shelter, now with even more enthusiasm. He shared Winston's story with all his friends, giving hope to people who had lost their pets. Knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together like true friends.